All right, everybody, how's it going? It is Friday, September 1st, 2023, and of course, we are just now 6 days away from the start of the NFL season when the Lions take on the Chiefs. So, and yesterday we uploaded our AFC prediction, so now it's only natural. It's only like the next logical step that we show what we think of the NFC. Basically, all of the same things that applied to that video apply to this one, so we can just we're not going to give exact records, just kind of a general idea of wins, but where they place in the standings is the important thing here. I'll give brief explanations for each placement of each team. It's not going to be super in depth, but I'll provide a little bit. Like a lot of things did go into like the formation of this, but like I think it'd be a very long, boring video if I used every single thing that I figured to went into this. But I'll give like the main points and like kind of like the highlight takes, the fun stuff and whatever. Yeah, so if you can, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave your thoughts and picks and everything down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. It basically just helps the video out, makes it perform a little better when I mention this right here. So, help us out, make the video do better if you can. And, maybe we can get some more eyes on this than usual. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should include. Yep, we'll just show the division winners and the playoff teams, and then that'll be the video. So without further ado, let's hop into the NFC North, one of the funner divisions, I think, heading into the season. We have the fourth place. I think it's going to be the Bears. And it's not because like they're like this, well, they're a pretty bad roster. Like I think they have improved. I think they improved almost across the board, but it's like one of those things where it's not really hard to improve on what they had last year, which was a team kind of bereft of any talent, a team kind of in a talent deficit, if you will. They were like the worst team in the league last year. I think record-wise they were. I don't know if they actually were, but like, record-wise. So like it's like, yeah, you can improve so much, but like what's an improvement? If you win 6 games, you doubled your win total, and it's probably a complete success of a year, as long as things look a little better. So even in kind of a weaker NFC that it is this year, they're probably still going to struggle, and I could see them kind of maxing out at about 5 or 6 wins. I don't really have much of a win range for them. But third place, I think the Green Bay Packers have kind of like this interesting thing coming into this year, right? It's the first year of post-Rodgers. They're moving into the Love era. We'll see what that's about. We'll see how good of a coach LaFleur really is. There's a lot of questions around the Packers, so it's harder to place them higher than like a third place or a second place finish. Especially when there is like 2 competent teams in their division. It's like, well, if they were in like the NFC South, maybe they could be like a contender to win the division. But like here in a division with 2 teams that are pretty well put together, the Vikings are shaky a little bit, but we'll see. I think the Packers being kind of like not necessarily a rebuilding year, but kind of like a prove it year. Like, hey, do we have anything going forward, or do we need to rebuild now that Rodgers is gone and Love isn't really going to be a guy? And, like a quick little rebuild going into next season is possible. But, if Love's good, they could be like a 9-win team, maybe snake a wild card spot. But in my head, they're not. Again, just so many questions. Is LaFleur really a good coach? Is, the combination of Watson and Romeo Doubs going to be enough going forward? Do they have is the run game good? Is the line good? How's the defense looking? Like there is some good questions about the Packers that we'll find out answers to real quickly. But again, I think if they were in a lesser division that didn't feel so top heavy, they maybe fare a little better, but like it's just going to be a transition year, I think, for the Packers, which is totally cool. Nothing really wrong with that. Well, what a bold prediction coming up next. The first time since like 93 that this would be a reality. 98 maybe for the Lions. Jeez. But I have the Minnesota Vikings kind of finishing in second. A probable playoff team, I can't remember. I think I do have them in the playoffs. We'll find out when we get to the end. But yeah, so my main problem with them is they did lose quite a bit, right? They lost their run game. I mean, Madison is still good. They picked up Jordan Addison in the draft. So like those could be compelling pieces, but it's like, it's really rough when you lose Dalvin Cook. Didn't feel like they really replaced him. I don't know. Maybe their offense doesn't really struggle. I just have this weird like gut feeling about something about the offense being a little bit worse than last year. Their defense is kind of shaky because they lost a few good players. I can't really go through and name them all. For some reason, I'm just blanking on the names, and that's not what this video is about. It's basically just like they had some key losses on defense. Don't know if they adequately replaced them. They kind of been not the greatest defensive team anyway. I think they did. I'm not really sure. I think they lost Danielle Hunter. That's the big one. Is I believe they did lose Hunter, and like if they did, that's not great. But the big thing is just like, when I think of a team that won as many 1 point or like 1 score games as they did last year and then immediately lost in the playoffs to the New York Giants, I have to think like, boy, oh boy, was that kind of like a lucky season for the Vikings and Kirk Cousins? Are they actually that good? Are like they a 12-13 win team, or are they more like a team that just happened to get lucky last year? And like, that's just a part of it. Like, they were winning all the games they were losing the year before, but what happens this year? Do they lose all those games? Do they kind of, split them instead of just win them all? Kind of an interesting thing to think about. I don't know. Minnesota's just kind of hard to figure out. And like, the main problem for them not winning the division is because the next team I'm about to talk about, to me, has like the second or third best roster in the NFC and one of like the best teams overall in the NFL. This is one of the best rosters on paper, right? Solid offense. I think they were number 3 in the NFL overall last year, and I think they only got better with the addition of Jahmyr Gibbs, who is poised to be possibly a contender for Rookie of the Year. I think we'll see what Jameson Williams can do once he gets back from his 6-game suspension. It's a solid receiving core. Laporta seems to be an adequate replacement of TJ Hawkinson, maybe even a little bit better of a receiver. We'll find out. So the Lions offensively seem set. Their offensive line is as good as ever. So, healthy heading into this year should be solid. Goff seems to play better behind a good offensive line. So he has weapons. He's got a good he's got a good run game. He's got weapons. He's got a good line. One of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL. So going into the second year together, or what is this, the third year with Ben Johnson? Either way, it's like things are starting to build and accumulate. So you can see how this is going to be one of the more potent offenses in the NFL. They have a very good coaching staff. We obviously know the team likes Dan Campbell. They play well for him. He seems to be getting better and better every game he coaches. He seems to learn a lot, seems to absorb information and learn from his mistakes as a coach. And then we look to their defense, which was, really bad at the start of last year. Then as the young because they are an incredibly young defense, as they matured and started to figure out how to play in the NFL, they actually started getting really good toward the end of last year. The run defense wasn't great, but their secondary seemed to take shape. And then they added Emmanuel Mosley. They've added, Cam Sutton. They added CJ Gardner-Johnson into that secondary. And now it's like, whoa. The Lions went from like a mediocre secondary to one of the better secondaries in the entire NFL, with guys like Tracy Walker now being rotational pieces, with Brian Branch added through the draft. So I'm really liking what they've done with their secondary. The linebacking core seems to be improved with Jack Campbell now and Malcolm Rodriguez probably just running a 2-back. They obviously have Mr. Houston and Hutch on the D-line entering year 2. They've got the Aquaras at D tackle, or whoever they're going to run. So it's like the team is massively improved, and on paper it's a very good football team. The only thing I think that holds people back is that the name attached to that team happens to be the Detroit Lions, and it's like, fuck, if it was any other team, this would be the Super Bowl pick for a lot of people, and I'm sure it is for a lot of people. Some people might just be going, fuck it, Lions Super Bowl, because again, the NFC is pretty wide open. If you can get past the Eagles or the 49ers, it's like, are the Lions the 3rd best team in the NFC? Like, it's just like, whoa, how did this happen? Kudos to the Lions for getting here. But yeah, it's hard to find a negative. The only negative they got is lack of experience, and Jared Goff's got a track record. But again, on an offense that's as set up as they are, we've only seen him succeed with that. Like last year, he did very well. This year, it's a better offense. We could see a repeat of his really good year with the Chiefs in 2018, where he was almost an MVP. So, I don't know. Something to think about anyway. This is probably how a lot of people see this division playing out, with a little flip-flop on Green Bay, Minnesota maybe. And maybe a little bit on the Bears and the Green Bay, but not much. So let's move on to the NFC Beast. Probably the best division in the NFC is the NFC East. I think from top to bottom, there's only one questionable team in the Commanders. Whoopsie. Come on, YouTube, don't do it to me. I'm part Native American, like a quarter, so I can say that. That's our word. The Washington Commanders expected to win I have about 7 or 9 wins, 4th place. It's just kind of a weird year. They have a pretty young quarterback. They're Eric Bieniemy's first year as the offensive coordinator. I think it's like a growth year, figure things out. Again, if Bieniemy works and Sam Howell can play quarterback as good as it seems like he can, maybe this Washington team can actually win some football games. It'd be quite surprising. Even as a 4th place team, I have it like they could be a over 500 team in my opinion, if everything goes right and Bieniemy is as good as we all thought he could be. Because again, they have some talent. They got a decent running back system. They've got a good setter. They got 1 good receiver and maybe 2 in Curtis Samuel. I don't know. It's not like bereft down there. It's not like a ghost town. Obviously, their defense is good, but it's just like until we see what their offense can actually do, it's just such a question mark. In a good division, it's hard to place them higher than 4th. Again, it's just because like if they were in a different division, they could be like an easy 3rd place pick. Even like they could win the NFC South, in my opinion. Like outright. They would just like with 9 wins, they'd win it. The NFC South is going to be fun to talk about last. We're saving the best for last, the NFC South. Don't worry. 3rd place, we got the New York Giants, but I wouldn't worry. Giants make the playoffs. Basically, from my perspective, only the NFC East teams are going to make the playoffs, except the Commanders. And I think the other team is the Vikings. Maybe Seattle or Minnesota is the last team. But again, I have like the Giants, Cowboys, and Eagles. They all make the playoffs. I know they do because I remember very specifically going, wow, I really think highly of the NFC East this year, apparently. But yeah, I have the Giants at 9 to 11 wins. All they got to do is repeat what they did last year and stay healthy. And it's like a lot of people forget like what they win like 7 games of right away, almost like what 7-1, 7-2, or something crazy like that. They had a very good start to the year, and then they kind of just they had this weird rocky moment when everybody got hurt, and they kind of had to struggle and kind of struggle stay alive. But again, they had a very good start to the year, but then everybody got hurt, things kind of got rocky, but again, they made the playoffs, and I think they could build on that. Team stay healthier. I think they added some decent receiving options in Hyatt, Waller, again, so things are starting to build up. They're going to be healthy, so they'll have guys back like the other guys they always have. The receivers are I'm like Shepard and Slayton. Those guys will be around or whatever, maybe if they still got them. I don't know. They're so, the Giants receivers. Who cares? They got Barkley back. Again, as long as they can stay healthy, it's a decent offense. Stacked alongside a very good defense with Thibodeau, and I really he played pretty good. So yeah, I don't know. I think the Giants are pretty solid. They had a pretty solid defense, great coaching. Again, easy chances of getting in the playoffs, I think. Just can't. Again, their biggest issue is injury. I think that's the only thing that holds the Giants back is if they get hurt. Because again, they're like a solid mid-tier to like coming along nicely roster. So I don't know. 3rd place isn't bad. Again, you're a playoff team. It's just like I think the Cowboys are a guaranteed double-digit win team, and I think the Giants could get in with 9 wins. Kind of why I did this, but I could see why you might flip-flop them. Because again, I feel like the same questions are there about the Giants that are there about the Cowboys. Yeah, they feel like a playoff team. Very good roster. Good coaching, kind of with Mike McCarthy. So, yeah, he's won a Super Bowl, I guess. So, you kind of can see pretty solid offense with Dak. He may turn the ball over a lot, but they're going to score a lot of points. They've got a good run game with Pollard. I think they have a good backup. I think that Deuce Vaughn is going to be fun. Oh, I need to drink some water. There we go. All right, I got my voice back. Anyway, the Giants. So the Cowboys. Well, I think they'll finish slightly ahead. I think they have a slightly better offense as long as they don't turn the ball over. But the Giants are also kind of weirdly turnover prone, but not as much last year. It seems like Daniel got over some of them turnover problems. We'll see if Dak can this year. But one of the things I like about the Cowboys this year is I think they made a major addition to their defense. And it wasn't just like in bringing in Stephon Gilmore, they made their defense better with him. I think the way he makes the defense better is he's going to mentor Trayvon Diggs, who, in my opinion, it plays pretty similar to Stephon. Stephon could probably sacrifice a bit more and get a ton of picks, but he also give up the big plays because, that's kind of like a tandem thing. So I'm wondering if Gilmore is going to mentor the immensely talented Diggs into being like more like a corner like he is, where it's like not exactly as pick heavy, but it's more shutdown. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I think if that happens, the Cowboys become a very good team, because again, oppressive pass rush with Mika Parsons, Mika, whatever you call him, with Parsons. And then you have, of course, the 2 shutdown corner situation. I think that's a recipe for a very good defense in Dallas. And I think that's what puts them slightly ahead of the New York Giants. Just slightly ahead. Because again, I think Gilmore brings that veteran presence and really ups the play of Diggs and teaches him not to be like a sellout corner, which isn't bad. I mean, Diggs has really good hands, but it's like, dude, just quit with the big shit, and you'd improve so much. And go for some deflections, you know? All right, and then, of course, like most people, this is probably the best team in the NFC. There's really very few flaws in the roster. Like, they lost some guys on defense. They got, like, all of them back. Like, I don't know what to say about the Eagles. Their offense looks really solid. I'm a little wondering about the run game, though, because it feels like with DeAndre Swift, he's often injured. And I'm hoping he stays healthy, because like inside of that offense, he would be he's a vicious weapon inside of an offense like that. Because again, he was a weapon inside of Detroit's offense when healthy. So hopefully he can stay healthy. If not, the Eagles' run game's in a little bit of a pickle. But again, it doesn't matter much when you've got AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, fucking Jalen Hurts, if he can repeat what he was doing last year. That was pretty awesome. Yeah, not too. I think the coaching's good, defense seems good, but I'm wondering. They brought in players who played Jordan Davis's and Nakobe Dean's position, and they keep seeming to want to fill that linebacker spot, even though they just drafted, Nolan Smith as well. So it's kind of like, I wonder how. It seems like Jalen Carter is going to be the real deal, though. They seem to have hit on Carter, but I wonder if those other 3 are ever going to live up to that massive potential on their defense. If not, they're going to eventually start to see holes forming on the defense. Not this year, because they have a lot of turnover from last year on the team. But eventually we may start to see some problems crack if they keep going for these Georgia defense players. I don't know. But right now they're fine. We'll see how their secondary goes. It seems like they did lose CJ Gardner-Johnson, but again, we'll see if that really hurts them too bad. They have a lot of depth. Really, the only thing that can hurt him is Matt Patricia now. The actual cancer. I don't know. I think this is a pretty good NFC East. Weird jump cut. Sorry about that. So I had to take care of my fucking breathing problem. I don't know. Anyway, let's just resume the video. All right, Arizona Cardinals. I had to re-record the entire NFC West, so I'm kind of annoyed. I usually call myself One Take Rob, but everything went to shit on this one. You could probably hear it at the end of the NFC East. I'm barely holding on. But anyway, we have the Cardinals at 3 to 5 wins. That's all we have to really say about Arizona. Bunch of losers. This is going to be the worst team in football. Los Angeles Rams, 7 to 9 wins, mainly because it's like, when I'm thinking about the Rams, I know they have really good coaching. Stafford's good, Kupp is good, Donald's good. I think they have another good player on defense, but it's like they only have a few good pieces left on that team, and it feels like I think they said something like 15 rookies or 15 very young players are on that team, and I think they now have the second youngest roster in the NFL. So again, this is kind of like a kind of retool year for the Rams, where they have to kind of just tread water, stay alive, and just kind of see what they have, stay healthy. Hopefully their line's a little bit better than it was last year. If not, it's going to be a rough year. If it is, and maybe they can mess around, get 9 wins, sneak into the playoffs. But again, it's going to be kind of a rough year with a very young team, a quarterback who's coming off pretty bad injuries and is super injury prone. As much as I may like Matthew Stafford, and he's like my second favorite quarterback now, due to the fact that Montana can't really stop shit talking Tom Brady for some stupid reason, and now he's number 10 on my all-time list. Hey, just where he belongs. Sometimes people make mistakes and they gotta go where they gotta go. But anyway, stupid Montana. Anyway, so yeah, the Rams are just kind of like, yeah, they have Kupp, but it's like the run game is meh, especially behind that offensive line. I don't really know any of their other receivers, if they're like up to the par of Kupp or even like around the same level as Kupp or beneath him. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, they could be good in a year, but it's going to be a rough year, especially if Seattle plays like they did last year and the 49ers play like they're supposed to. This feels like they're probably the third best team in the division. But again, could it be a playoff team? Maybe, if they can get to more around the 9-win mark of what they could be, rather than, around the 7-win. If injuries and all that other horrible things occur. But again, we're kind of thinking they won't, kind of how we predict, but the real thing is, like, the Rams' success kind of depends on if Seattle's real or not. Because if they're not, maybe the Rams do a little better and win a few more games, and they seem like a better team, finishing second. But again, if Geno Smith happens to actually be real, last year wasn't like an illusion. He wasn't suddenly this generation's Rich Gannon now, and he's just going to be good for the last few years of his career, which could happen. I mean, it does happen. Guys become busts and then suddenly they figure it out. It's literally, I said the name, Rich Gannon. Very similar story. So maybe this is his moment and he's going to run with it. But again, we kind of want to see it, right? It's kind of hard to say they'll win the division or they're this like powerhouse playoff team again, and like they're going to be the new Seahawks with Geno Smith. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe. It seems like it's heading that way, but can we see it for a second time? Or is this like one of them like secret things where it's going to be just that one time we've seen it and Geno's going to return back to the old Geno? The clock struck 12, which is kind of like what it seemed like was happening toward the end of last season, where it kind of seemed like Geno wasn't playing anywhere near what the season started off as. We'll see, though. I think Seattle does have a lot of good strengths, good pass game, good run game. Offensive line's a little but it's improving. Defensive secondary is pretty good. Running defense is a little shoddy. And unfortunately, because of the way that the run defense is and the kind of fact that their offensive line's a little shoddy and can be beat up on, that's why I kind of have a finishing second. And technically, I think that this team is the best team in the second best team in the NFC. And if they have their quarterback situation figured out and Purdy's as good as he looked last year, we'll see. They could be the best team in the NFC and one of the best teams in the NFL. Their defense is obviously loaded with talent from front to bottom. They got to pay Bosa clearly. Their offense is pretty solid. They have a good running game in McCaffrey. They've got Deebo Samuel. They've got Kittle. Everything is there to succeed and be one of the best teams. Shanahan's a good coach. The only question mark, again, is the quarterback position for the 49ers. They have Fred Warner on defense. It's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's loaded. Again, the only thing you can really ask yourself is Purdy the guy? And if he's not, what do the 49ers do now? How do they get to their 11 or 10 wins? So, it's really, I mean, the NFC West feels pretty simple. The real questions are, is Seattle and Geno real, or was that like a flash in the pan? And if they are real, how good are they going to be with everything going on around them, especially with the shaky line, with the 49ers being a defensive heavy team. That weak line kind of puts them behind Seattle, or behind the 49ers. And I think the fact that Seattle or the 49ers run the ball so well with McCaffrey and Samuel, Seattle's run problems, unless we know that they're completely fixed, that kind of keeps them behind. And the Rams and Cardinals aren't really going to contend. All right, if you made it this far, you get yourself a treat now, because this isn't going to be serious at all. This fucking division sucks. This could be another year that the South sends a 7-9 or a 7, 10, 8, 9 win team into the playoffs. It's really embarrassing. We need a realignment. At number 4, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They don't really got Baker could do good, but it seems like everybody's trying to get out of there. Mike Evans doesn't want to sign a contract extension or something like that. It seems like he could be traded. Kind of seems like Tampa Bay might be angling to tank for one of these top young quarterbacks coming out in the draft. So watch out for them being around like the Arizona Cardinals level with the Colts. So my prediction is basically the Colts, the Bucs, and the Cardinals are going to be like your 3 worst teams this year. And that's fine. I mean, this is a good year to tank. Marvin Harrison, you've got Drake May, you've got hopefully the kid from USC and Caleb Williams. We'll see if he comes out. But even if he doesn't, it's still such a good year. It's a good year to tank. So if Tampa's tanking, fair enough. Carolina Panthers. Maybe Bryce Young's a good quarterback. We'll see. But he's smaller than Kyler Murray, and that was a tiny guy. So we'll see if the durability's there. That's really the only question is, can he take the hits? Can he survive them? Can he play at this level? We'll find out pretty quickly here. He's starting, so I think they have a pretty solid run game that we've seen even after McCaffrey left. Receivers are pretty thin. So we'll see how that plays. The defense is kind of rocky. Has some decent players and guys like Brian Burns. If he's no, I think Burns left. Can't remember, but I know that they have they have some good players on their defense, like J.C. Horn. This is why I have them in third place at 4 to 7 wins. So I don't think they're this is like a work in progress. They're a rebuilding team that's a work in progress. This is what we say about some of these teams. I don't think they're going to be one of the worst teams, but they're pretty limited what they can do. The Falcons, a team you never bet that will win. You always, Falcons are cursed. I do like that they burned it down and have rebuilt it and are trying to make it into like this new thing, of like, we're going to sign all the running backs. We're going to run you to death. And then when you just don't think we can run anymore, then we'll throw it. Win the game that way. I guess. Question their team building abilities when they have very good running backs and draft a running back. When they need linemen. But, hey, you do whatever you got to do in Atlanta. They got to fire that Arthur Smith guy. He's a joke. Then they got Desmond Ridder at quarterback. And then the only team in the division that seems to be trying to actually not look like a goddamn dumpster fire is the New Orleans Saints. I don't know. It seems pretty solid. I think the offensive line is questionable. We'll see how they look without Kamara for a little while there because of the suspension. Let's see what else. I do like that Michael Thomas seems to be healthy and happy to play with Derek Carr. That should be pretty cool. We'll see how Carr plays in a new stadium, in a new environment. He looks a lot more shredded, a lot more in shape than he ever has to, so that's pretty cool. Again, New Orleans doesn't have like a bad set of players on offense. They just didn't have a quarterback the last couple of years, and now they got a decent quarterback. We'll see how it plays. They have an okay defense. They should run this division with relative ease, basically, is what's going on here. I think they have the best coach. They have, maybe Arthur Smith's a little better. I don't know. Bruce Allen ain't bad. He had a tough rebuild. He's got a quarterback. He's got good offense, decent defense. It don't really matter about the NFC South, though. If we're being honest, anyone can win it. Any of these teams are technically in the hunt for it. Kind of like the AL Central of football. Anybody's in play. Shit, Carolina could win this shit with 5 wins. I don't really care. Do you? All right, let's get away from the NFC South, the boring and crappy teams. Playoff standings then. Like I said, I think we put the Minnesota Vikings in over the Seattle Seahawks, mainly just because I think Minnesota's a slightly better team than Seattle. And I just believe in them a little bit more than I do Seahawks. Again, that could change if Geno comes out and looks like he did last year, just kind of playing gangbusters, looks like a new guy, looks like the Geno of last year, not the Geno of old. Then maybe this changes and I put Seattle in over Minnesota. But right now, in my gut, it's telling me Minnesota makes it over Seattle anyway. And then we have the Giants. Like I said, I can put the next two. I already told you guys that both these teams are going to make it. I don't think anyone else has as many wins potentially as the Giants or the Cowboys, which is kind of funny. Maybe the 49ers? No, 49ers are a division winner. So like I said, no one else has these win totals. So Giants and Cowboys get in. That's obviously the seeding because the way it's going to look. And then we have the New Orleans Saints with their 8 to 10 wins. Very annoying. Who's next? Next division winner would be the Lions with 10 to 12 wins, which, I mean, like I said, the NFC is very top heavy with the 3 top teams. Because when you look at it, it's like 10. It goes from 8 to 10. And like you can include the Cowboys, I guess, too. 10 wins, 11, then 11. So it kind of plays out like that. I think the 49ers are just behind the Eagles in terms of how things play out. Like if the Eagles win 12, San Francisco wins like 11 or 10, and that's just kind of like the Eagles are just edging them out in my head. Mainly because they have like a more consistent offense and the 49ers have major questions at quarterback. I still think they're like the second best team in the NFC, but essentially this is how I think the NFC playoffs kind of play out, if you will. Like the pun? Oh shit, what the hell? Why'd that do that? Oh well. All right, that's my NFC playoff predictions, I guess you could call them, or like getting to the NFC prediction, or whatever you want to call it, the divisional winners and playoff teams thing for the NFC. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. I know the first time you probably ever heard of an edit or a jump cut in one of my videos, that was weird. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Leave your thoughts down below in the video. I'll make sure I get back to you. All that good mumbo jumbo, all that stuff you want to hear, and you know, YouTubers always say. Yeah, I do want to hear like what your thoughts are on this, and like what are your NFC predictions? How do they look? Those things are always fun to read and talk about, and you know, it's just a fun thing to do. Anyway, yeah, that's about that. Yeah, that's about that. Okay, NFL predictions for the NFC are done. The next video out will be the awards predictions, and then of course the playoff predictions on Sunday. So hopefully you stay tuned for those. It should be pretty fun. Yeah, that's about that. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your night, morning, mid-afternoon, midday, whenever you listen. Go Lions, go Patriots, and of course, or go Tigers, and of course, it's always go Patriots. Peace out, and thanks for listening. Peace. What do you think?